Hi, this is Kevin for Passion for the Word. Before we get into today's video, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to our channel. Please share it with your friends. That helps get YouTube to promote our videos. Share them with your friends and hit the like button. Do all that stuff. You know what to do. If you got any questions, send them to us in an email or in the comments below. What we're going to look at today is what's commonly called the prosperity gospel, and we're going to look at what the Bible has to say on it. Does the Bible support this? It's a huge thing. You go into any Christian bookstore, and it's going to be a good number of the books are going to be from pastors that preach this gospel. There are going to be books about that. So we're going to look at the scriptures and see what the Bible actually has to say about the prosperity gospel. I'm not going to get into naming names. I'm a little torn on that right now. On one hand, Paul mentions 4 or 5 pastors or false teachers in just one of his letters. Still torn on that, but it doesn't matter who. If you know what the Bible says, you'll be able to recognize the wolves in sheep's clothing. So before we jump into it, there's one word I want to make sure we all understand. That's the word covet and any of the different forms, covetousness and everything. To covet is basically to want something you don't have, to desire things that you don't have, especially as it pertains to monetary things or material things. That's what coveting is. So we want to make sure we understand coveting is wanting things that you don't have, wanting more. Now, some verses that prosperity proponents will use through John 1:2. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. He's wanting what's best for you, but this is John. He's not saying the Lord will do this. He's saying he wishes that you may prosper. And what does he mean by prosper? We'll look at the context in some of the other verses. In Philemon 4:19, we have, but my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. That's not everything you want, but it is your needs. So I think that's important to recognize the difference there. So those are the 2 main verses I know that, there's a few others that they'll use to try to encourage try to promote their beliefs. But this is, I think, the meat of it. When it really comes down to it, is that it is material gain what the Bible is preaching. We're going to go right to the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6:19. We're going to start at 6:19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. It says, don't do it. That shouldn't be a goal. Prosperity gospel is all about laying up treasures on earth. Here's Jesus saying, don't do it. Verse 20, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. As far as I'm concerned, I could almost stop there and have a pretty clear case against the prosperity gospel, but we're not even close to finish. Matthew 6:24, still Sermon on the Mount. No man can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon is an old English way of saying money. So this is directly pointing to wealth and money. You can't chase God and chase wealth at the same time, not if that's your primary goal. Luke 12:13, or starting in verse 13. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother, that he divide the inheritance with me. So here's someone else wanting material things. And he said unto him, this is Jesus, and he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or divider over you? Verse 15, and he said unto them, Take heed And beware of covetousness. Beware of wanting and desiring things. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Possesseth. I've always struggled with that word. It's a real tongue twister. But here, anytime that the Bible's talking about blessings and so on, I think Jesus is making it clear here that they're not talking about material things. What your life does not consist of the things that you possess. Jesus is making that very clear here. In Ephesians 5, starting in verse 1, be ye therefore followers of God, as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. So here again, another warning against wanting what we don't have, against desiring money, desiring material things. Verse 4, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. So you shouldn't be focused on wanting more, but being thankful for what you have. For this ye know. Okay, now this is important. For this you know, this is without argument, this you know, that no whoremonger, okay, look at the category of people we've got here. A whoremonger, nor an unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. A covetous man, they're being listed with unclean people, with whoremongers. Verse 6, let no man deceive you with vain words or foolish words, for because these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. Go back and read the previous verses to drive in what you're not supposed to be partakers with. That would be idolaters, covetous people, whoremongers, unclean people. You're not to partake of that. You're not supposed to be going after it. So when someone's preaching this, that this is, you speak it into existence and God will bless you. And these people that preach this prosperity gospel, they're not praying. I don't see that they're praying to the God, the creator of everything. They view God more as a genie that can be manipulated, and they're trying to teach you how to manipulate God to give you more material gain. 1 Timothy chapter 6, starting in verse 5. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds, and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness? From such withdraw with thyself. So we've got Paul saying that if you think gain is godliness, or if they think gain is godliness, we're told by Paul to withdraw ourselves from them. But godliness, verse 6, but godliness with contentment is great gain. So just in these two verses, the people that are saying that gain is godliness are destitute of the truth, because godliness with contentment is where the great gain is. Be happy with what God's given you already. Don't be constantly seeking more. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not a good idea to work for more things. It's just have it in the proper perspective, the proper priority. Don't make it your entire motivation. It should be a very small issue to try to work for these things, not the main driving force. Going on to verse 7 of 1 Timothy chapter 6. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be there with content. So if you've got clothing, if you've got food, shelter, be happy, be thankful for that. There are a lot of people that don't have that. Verse 9, but they that will be rich, that's their desire, to be rich, that's their desire. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. Almost any one of these passages by itself is enough to expose the prosperity gospel. Taken as a as a whole with all of them, it's devastating to the teaching. On to verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Now this is the one, everybody gets this one out of context. They'll say that money is the root of all evil. That's not what it says. It's the love of money. Money itself is not evil. Money is just a tool. No different than a cell phone or a hammer or any other tool. It's what you can do with it. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith. So if that's what you desire is more money, there are some, it says some have, while coveting, while chasing this, they've erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after. Okay, so here we're about to find out what a man of God or a woman of God is supposed to follow after in place of desiring more money or more objects. Follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. Any secular person, even the most staunch atheist, will be chasing after more goods, more money. A Christian is supposed to be different. We should, rather than chasing after money and such things, we should be chasing after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. And then Hebrews 13, verse 5. Let your conversation be without covetousness. You're getting that. Every time that word comes up in any form, it's always a warning not to do it. Never that I've found is it encouraged. And be content with such things as ye have. And here again, the Bible throughout it tells you to be content with what you have. Don't be constantly focused on what you don't have. Be content with what you do have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Wow, that's pretty powerful right there. Now, there is one place in the Bible where I can find someone offering riches, someone offering power, where I can find someone offering up all the promises that the prosperity gospel offers. It's in a couple spots, but we're gonna use the example in Matthew 4, starting in verse 8. Again, the devil take him up into an exceeding high mountain. So this is, if you haven't guessed already, this is Satan when he's trying to tempt Jesus. Up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them, and saith unto him, all these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. What the prosperity gospel is offering you is essentially the same thing that Satan tried to offer Jesus. I just don't see, there's no room for both. There's no room for this in a Bible reading Christian man's life. Now, the prosperity gospel isn't just about money, it's also about health. And they'll tell you, if you declare yourself healthy, you'll be healthy and all this. Well, even that aspect of it, we'll look at Paul. Now, Paul tells us more than once to be a follower of Paul, as he is a follower of Christ. So he is an example of how we should live our lives. We read Paul's writings as a guide on how to live. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, starting in verse 7, and lest I should be exalted, this is Paul speaking, lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations there was given to me a thorn in the flesh. There's a lot of speculation as to what this thorn was. I probably think it was his eyesight, an eyesight problem. We know that he lost his eyesight when Jesus confronted him, and it wasn't given to him till sometime later. We also know that in the book of Romans, which is credited to Paul, he actually didn't write it in, I want to say it's in, I'm not even going to guess at it. In the last chapter, you'll see a verse that says, I, Tertius, who wrote this epistle. Paul didn't actually, he's not the one that held pen to paper. He had somebody else do that for him. A speculation that it could have been an eyesight problem. So going back, and lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. So here's Paul, probably one of the most righteous men to live, short of Christ himself. And he's got a physical ailment. Verse 8, for this thing I besought the Lord thrice, 3 times, that it might depart from me. And he, God, said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. That's how we're supposed to handle infirmities, illnesses, whatever the case may be. Doesn't mean that God won't heal some people. Sometimes he'll heal you with the medical field, sometime with other ways, and sometime in a purely miraculous way that confounds every doctor and every expert out there. That's God's choice. It's not your faith that determines whether you're healed or not. Just look at the case where Peter walks up to the blind man who's begging for alms. And this guy doesn't know that healing is an option. And Peter says, gold and silver have I none, but what I have I freely give you. And boom, his eyesight's restored. If you're not being healed, it's not your faith. If a faith healer tells you that it's your faith that's preventing you from being healed, that faith healer just hasn't read the Bible yet. I know it's a bold statement, but it's right there. You look it up yourself. Peter, the blind man, that blind man didn't even know healing was an option. So faith isn't what heals you. And God may decide that he's got other purposes for you to handle this infirmity. So finishing that one up, 2 Corinthians 12, here's Paul's final word on it. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong. You learn to lean on Christ for these things. That's it for the prosperity gospel. I hope this helped. Don't take my word for it. Look through these scriptures, compare them to what these prosperity gospel preachers may say, and ask yourself, what do you think the Bible has to say on the topic? Which one do you think really, when Christ walked the earth, he could have walked it in any form he wanted to, and he chose not to walk it as a rich man. And I didn't even get into the verses that talk about it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom. It's not impossible, but I don't see anywhere where Jesus encourages seeking wealth. Being wealthy is not a sin. But have it in the proper perspective and recognize if God has chosen to bless you financially, he's not necessarily done that so you can own 3 houses and 5 sports cars and a yacht and all this stuff. If he's blessed you financially, he's probably done it so that you can help ministries. And this is not a call for money. If God puts it on your heart to support us, great. If he doesn't, then put the money where God has told you to. But if God's blessed you financially, it's so that you can bless a ministry. Don't put your money where there's a need. Put your money where you see God working. And that's it for this video. Thank you and God bless.